Good afternoon, Delegate Wranglers, and everybody tuning in for another masterclass with myself and Dom. How are you, Dom?
I'm extraordinarily well, thank you. It's a lovely mood in the backstage area before we came live today.
Extraordinarily well. Wow. Please tell us more, Dom. Always.
No further story.
Always.
No further story. Just before we start at all, Neil, I do just want to apologise to everybody last week, and particularly Al. We had a production nightmare. It's anyone in production's worst nightmare. Isn't just when the internet goes or when something that's very quickly fixable goes, but when you have a problem like we had last week, it is an absolute nightmare. And our main production computer this time last week completely burnt out and took the entire show offline. And it was probably one of the most engaged shows that we'd had for a while. Everyone was thoroughly enjoying the content, and we just lost the connection. So I just want to say a huge sorry to everyone that was watching last week, to you, Neil, and then, like I said, particularly to Al, because it really affected everyone. So on behalf of all of us, apologies.
Welcome to the Dominic Apology Show. First of all, we had the pub in the first week. Then my computer was fried. The next week,
I can't even do anything. I can't even do anything sincerely, can I?
Look forward to next week's excuse. Dog at my computer or something. Anyway, sorry, Dom. No, I know he was heartbroken that he couldn't finish the show. But anyway, let's fingers crossed, Dom. It's going to happen this week with a bit of luck.
We're going to be
all right. We're going to get there, right? So here we are, guys. We are on season 5, episode 3 of 8. We've got a fantastic show lined up today. We've got Laura and James Capell-Abra from Stress Matters going to be giving us a fantastic mindset masterclass. We're really, really looking forward to this. I'm a very mindset. Are you like into your mindset and everything, Dom? I'm big into it. Massive.
Do you know what? It's one of those things that I know I need to do better at, and but it's a really good indicator because my mindset doesn't clearly allow me to be better at it. So it's something I really, really need to work on it this year. I'm not going to say that I would have made a New Year's resolution about it, but I think I need to take steps to improve mindset when it comes to the subjects that we're going to talk about today. So I know you're really good at it, and I know another person who's probably watching is Craig, who's amazing at this.
Yeah. I think it's really important. It gives you that added extra bit of security and a few little go-to things and a bit of protection and, lots of things set you up for the day. You can refer back to little techniques and tips, and I'm sure Laura and James are going to talk about that today. But no, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So as usual, Dom, where is everybody watching this week?
As normal, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Neil's profile on LinkedIn. You can follow all of the Delegate Wranglers social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, what am I forgetting? LinkedIn and Twitter. Do follow at the Delegate Wranglers. It means a whole world to Neil and to the group. It helps spread the word of all the things that we're doing. And there are probably somewhere close to 70 hours worth of DW Live content out there for you to see, covering a whole range of subjects. So search at the Delegate Wranglers on all your favorite social media channels except TikTok and go find us.
So before we move on any further, I'd like to say, as usual, this whole season is sponsored by Melia Hotels and Inside by Melia. And we've got another little update with them this week. So thank you guys for tuning in and check out this fabulous video. Wowzer, that conference centre looks absolutely fantastic. A big thanks to Melia and Inside for that. We love these updates. You know, we've got some more coming up, and we a couple more interviews and things coming up. So tons of things to find
Are they
out
doing
about.
something? Are they doing something different every week?
Every week, yeah, for one of the
Excellent.
Melia brand or the Inside brand.
Yeah.
Scott and Kathy, you know, I know they watch the show as well. So if you need anything from them guys, like you know, contact them and they will look after you, definitely. So just before we crack on with the show, I just want to say, guys, this is a really interactive show as always. Please send in any questions, any comments to Dom, myself, James, and Laura. We'll do our best to answer them. That's for everybody watching on YouTube. Thanks, guys, for watching, by the way. Don't know why I'm waving to you over there. You can't see me. To everybody on LinkedIn. And what a pro. What a pro I am, eh?
Notice none of us commented.
That was scripted. Can I just say that was scripted? That's actually in our script for me to do that. I wrote that joke. Anyway, so without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Laura and James. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi. You can't have me starting just laughing at you. That's not a very
laughing at me.
Is the best way to start this.
What a great written joke.
Most people do. So, how are you two guys doing? Are you okay? You're in different places. You're married, and yet you're in different places.
I know. She's abandoned me today.
The love of independence, you see. You can imagine after pandemic and working in the same business together, having that much close contact is good to have a bit of space. Helps with the mindset.
Exactly,
How much space did you put between you today, Laura?
I'm in London.
A good amount.
So not too much, about 30 miles space.
30 miles space, yeah. Anyway, so obviously today you're going to be giving us a mindset masterclass that we're really looking forward to. Do you want to tell us a bit about Stress Matters and how you guys, you know, what you do? And I know you've been, Laura, you're a veteran. I think this is your 4th time on the show. But obviously you guys are kind of our, you know, well-being partners. So we love having you on the show. So do you want to tell us a bit about, you know, what we're going to be talking about today and a little bit about Stress Matters?
Fab. I mean, I'd like that, or I'm not so sure about being old enough to be a veteran, but I'll take it for now. So thank you for, as always, hosting us and having us on again. Much appreciated. And very nice that James is joining today. So I'm going to let James introduce himself in a minute, but just to give a little bit of an overview. So for those of you that I don't know, as Neil said, I run Stress Matters and have been on DW Live for a long time, for many times, and we are the wellbeing partner. So we, anytime you see things popping up about your wellbeing and your mental health, that's probably down to us working with Neil. And I am from the events industry. I joined the industry nearly 20 years ago now, and I experienced burnout in my mid-20s. And so I've always kind of been conscious of the pressure that the industry can have. And when I got kind of slightly further in my career and set up or was working with a kind of team, I experienced the other side of the coin where I had team members going off on sick leave with stress. And it kind of occurred to me that this wasn't just a personal thing where I wasn't quite hacking the pressure. It was something where actually I wanted to try and see how we could help other people in the industry and kind of change the kind of the industry's approach to mental health and wellbeing. So that's kind of where Stress Matters came from. And I think what I'm quite excited about today's session around mindset is because it kind of is partly to do with Stress Matters, but also partly to do with No More Sabbats, which is the coaching and development company I run. So we'll be able to kind of seed in a little bit about that. But over the last couple of years, things have changed in the entire industry, the entire world. One of the things that's changed is James has joined Stress Matters as well. So I'll let him introduce himself properly.
Thank you, Laura. So, I'm James. I joined Laura at Stress Matters a couple of years ago. Before that, I actually set up and run a business in a completely different industry. So, excuse me. We basically made specialist surfaces, very, very boring compared to what we do now. And it was doing that over a long period of time. I started to actually experience signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety myself. So I started to go through my own journey of experiencing mental health issues. And at the end of my time in my old job, I finally admitted to myself that there was a problem and started to go on this journey of recovery. And it was on that journey that I realized that actually I was really, really interested in mental health. And it mainly at the start in terms of understanding, what had happened to me. And the more and more I got into it, the more I realized that I was really passionate about it and that's what I wanted to do next. So I upped and left my old job and joined Laura a couple of years ago. And I look after everything mental health related at Stress Matters. So all of our clients who do mental health training with us, I tend to be the one that leads all of that, although Laura is qualified as well. But that's my real passion. So that's what I tend to focus on. And like Laura said, I think one of the things that sort of tying this into mindset is we can very easily look at mental health and think, oh, if you've got a mental health problem, you go to the doctor, you take some pills and that's it really. But actually mindset is everything when it comes to personal development, when it comes to mental health, physical health, overall health. It's so important to our overall well-being, and that's why it's a really important topic for us to talk about today.
So Dom mentioned earlier about the idea that he struggled getting into the right mindset. And one of the things that we talk quite a lot about in terms of mindset is this idea of fixed and growth mindset. So there's two different types of mindset. They're the kind of people and kind of things that you might have a fixed mindset around, which are you believe you're either good at something or you believe you're not good at something or not able to do something. And then the growth mindset is that you are kind of more interested in developing and learning and wanting to kind of change your mindset. And quite often we kind of get stuck into one of those types of mindset. But it doesn't mean we have to be all or nothing. Actually, we can have a fixed mindset around certain things, around certain areas, and a growth mindset around others. So, for example, I am aware of the fact I have quite a fixed mindset around the fact that I am incapable of learning languages. So my very fixed mindset, which is I cannot do it, and however hard I try, I just can't do it, is essentially quite a fixed mindset approach. So I might half-heartedly try, but I've already kind of told myself that I won't be able to do it. So actually what that means is that I'm not really trying, and I've not found the reason, the systems, the processes, the leverage to make that happen. So what we've got to do kind of before we start thinking about things like habits is start identifying, actually, do we have a fixed or a growth mindset? And actually, is it something we're willing to take on and learn and develop, or is it something that actually we're quite set in our ways on and we need to be challenged even further?
Laura, is it easy to change that mindset? Because I think we all have. I know you're going to talk about it now. We all have these hang-ups, about things like that. Is it an easy thing to reprogram yourself to be able to, develop it and work on it?
I don't think it's easy, but it's absolutely possible. So it's one of those things you have to do consciously. So you can't just suddenly one day wake up thinking I've got quite a fixed mindset in something, and then the next day go, oh, now it's changed. It's not quite as simple or as fast as that. But if you're conscious that you want to develop your mindset, then you can absolutely work towards that. So you don't have a fixed mindset, if you like. Actually, you might have a fixed mindset and that can become a growth mindset. So you can kind of shift between these different areas with a little bit of conscious thought. And I think when we, as we kind of get more and more into this, actually, where we look at mindset and we look into habits, a lot of it comes down to kind of that self-awareness and that understanding of what your limitations are, what your opportunities are, what it is you're trying to achieve. And the more you become self-aware, the more you can develop those mindsets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because it's something I need to work on. About a few things. I didn't think it would be easy. Damn.
Sadly not.
Oh,
Where? Okay, so Neil, let me put it to you. Where's your fixed mindset and where's your growth mindset at?
fixed mindset. It depends. I've got a really fixed mindset, like about my, about my business, like, or I don't know if that's growth mindset, about growing, growing the Delegate Wranglers and developing new things. I'm really, really focused and in the zone. But then I think finding time for myself to, relax and do all that things. I'm always saying, no, I haven't got time, can't do it. No, I can't spare the time. So I think that they might be two decent examples, Laura. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, kind of. So, yeah, absolutely. It could be very much a fixed mindset of I know I'm going to make this work, and I'm not gonna kind of accept anything that might say I might not make my business work. It will work. I'm determined it will work. I am fixed mind on the fact it will work. Now, in this case, that's obviously a really positive thing because that means that you're pushing forward, you have the faith in yourself and in the business. But as you said, the downside of that is that it might mean that other things slip in terms of your well-being. Now, I know obviously from lots of conversations we've had, actually you do a lot of you put a lot of time and effort into making sure that your well-being is positive around the business, but we all know, and we've talked before about how that can be a really difficult juggling act in terms of if you're so fixed mindset. And I have the same, being kind of a business owner, that you can be so determined on something, but there's that kind of slightly harder edge of what's going to be missing out, what are you losing out on, and quite often it comes down to your well-being, particularly when it comes down to business and money, or well-being. And of course, I'd like to think we can have them together, but quite often we see them as separate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the line's been blurred quite considerably for us over the last couple of years, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. And another thing that you need to think about as well, and is when we are, like Neil's example, we're thinking, okay, we're really focused on one particular thing, and we might have a really growth mindset focus in that area. But we've got to ask ourselves, what's the impact of having a fixed mindset in another area on that thing that you are actually working towards? So sometimes we think we can't have as growth a mindset as possible in a particular area and get as far as we want to get because we're fixed actually in other areas. And we have this conversation with, Laura has this conversation with people all the time, particularly with coaching, which is actually, if you're not looking after yourself, how effective can you be as a business leader or as a partner or a friend or a colleague or whatever it might be? And people very often, when they think about their habits, are trying to build habits to grow a business or to achieve something, but actually are ignoring the fact that their mindset isn't where it needs to be, on the real foundations of your overall well-being, be it physical, mental well-being, or just overall in general. And that can then stop you in the other areas of your life.
I think something that's worth thinking about is we hear the idea of kind of good and bad habits quite a lot, and it'd be great to hear from anybody that's watching about any kind of bad habits or good habits they think they have. But I hear these kind of words, good and bad habits, fairly often, and I find them quite jarring. And actually, the phrases or the kind of the versions of the words that I like are helpful and unhelpful habits, because I think if you're thinking about exactly what James said there about you're trying to achieve something in one area of your life, actually what is the knock-on effect in other areas of your life? But also, somebody's good habit might be your bad habit, and actually we can end up putting ourselves into a little bit of a kind of stigma cycle that we're feeling guilty about something we're doing, where actually it might be really positive. So for example, for some people, if you want to be more engaged with the Delegate Wranglers community, you are going to want to spend more time on social media. So that's going to be a really positive thing for you. Actually, for somebody that thinks they're spending too much time on their screen and they want to step away from the screen, then that's not going to be such a good thing. So it's not about saying something good or bad, because it's all kind of relative. It's about saying, is it helpful or unhelpful for you to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve? And of course, when you think about mindset, you've got to have some sense of what it is you're hoping to achieve goal-wise, and then having the right mindset to put the right habits in place that work for you. And those habits may be very different to somebody else, but it's about thinking about what's helpful and unhelpful in your situation.
I think generally we tend to think of habits as bad, don't we? Bad habits, whatever that might be. But actually, I've learned, and I've read a couple of books on it during the lockdown and stuff, that habit forming can be a really positive thing. You can make these really chaining habits together. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that, but doing one means you do something else and something else, like getting your gym stuff ready the night before so that you go to the gym the next day or whatever. But it's habits can be a positive thing. That's the point I was trying to make, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You're completely right. And I think habits make our life easier. So one of the things that either you're going to think is me being a bit too lazy or not is I always talk about making your life easy. We talk as a business, we talk about making workplace well-being easier, but even with my coaching clients, I talk about, okay, why are you making your life more difficult? Make your life easy. There's so many other things in this world that make our life harder. We should be doing everything we can to make it easier, and habits do that. So the more we can get our kind of habits into a situation is basically getting the systems and processes, if you think about it in terms of a business context, that support you trying to achieve what it is you want to achieve. So absolutely, habits can be really helpful. And if you've got the kind of mindset about I want to make my life easy, but I want to be able to achieve more things by making it easy, then putting habits in place can be really, really positive. So I think actually being able to identify what it is you want and how doing something regularly can help you get there. It's really important. So you mentioned, for example, about putting your gym clothes out, and the idea that, again, that's about making it easy for you. So in the morning, for example, if you're not quite sure if you can be bothered to go for a run, you see your gym clothes and you remind yourself that you're going to go for a run, and hopefully you remind yourself that you're going to feel good after doing it. So you're making it easy for yourself and your mind to say, yes, that's the step I'm going to take. Whereas we quite often make it difficult for ourselves to do the things that are positive for us. So it's all about kind of thinking about what habits will be helpful to make your life easier as well.
There's always a reason not to do something. The gym clothes and telling yourself or trying to remind yourself how you're going to feel after you've been to the gym, I think is probably where I would. It's a really good example for me at the moment because I know I need to go and I know that I will feel better when I've done it. But just the thought of getting up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to go, especially when it's cold and wintry outside, it's not my thing at the moment.
Okay, so James can talk to you about leverage on this. So this is where you need leverage, Dom.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I set this up just for you, James.
You did, yeah, well done, thank you. So one of the reasons why we, well, in fact, before we talk about leverage, first of all, it's really important to make sure that when we're talking about goals, we're actually choosing the right goals, first of all, because you can't have leverage to achieve a goal if it's not the right one in the first place for you. So many people choose something that they think they should do. They think that this is something that I have to do. This is something that I should do. This is something that I've chosen to do because other people are doing it, for example. So it's really important before we even get to the point of creating leverage for ourselves to achieve a goal that it's actually the right one for us. And that's what's really important. When it comes to kind of thing, being very self-aware, knowing what your values are, and having a really good sense of what you want your life to look like in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months time. Because unless you are really bought into that, it's very difficult to then give yourself leverage to achieve a goal. And some people might be thinking, what on earth are you talking about with leverage? What does that mean? Well, what I'm talking about is actually when you set a goal, instead of just saying, right, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I want to lose 10 kilos or whatever it is, because it's what I should do, because I want to be healthy. Giving yourself leverage is giving yourself like 10 things, 10 reasons why that is a good idea. Yeah. And if you can't give yourself 10 reasons, then you might have chosen the wrong goal. Yeah. If you can't get sort of fired up in your belly about these are the positive outcomes that are going to come from that thing you do, then you've probably chosen the wrong thing. So with losing weight, for example, instead of just saying, well, yes, I'll be healthier, it's when I go on holiday, I'm going to look really great. It's I'm going to feel much better. what's the benefits for other people? I'm going to have more energy to play with my kids. Do you know what I mean? It's really delving into it to say, what are the benefits of this to me, to my business, to my partner, to my kids, to my life? What's the benefits of this right now and in the future? But then also it's flipping it on its head as well and saying, what are the benefits I'm going to miss out on if I don't do this? Okay, so who's going to be negatively impacted if I don't do this thing? So it's reminding yourself of all of the reasons to do it and also all of the reasons to not do it. Yeah. So that you've got a really clear idea in your mind that this is the right goal for you, and you can start then setting up your systems to achieve it.
Interesting. Okay, I can do that.
So it's almost like what I'm reading from that is positive kind of visualizing as well. You know, you're thinking of all the positive knock-on effects and all the negative, all the negative effects of not doing it as well.
Absolutely.
It's quite complex, isn't it? Quite complex mindset, because I think, you know, it's quite easy to, like Dom said, to find reasons not to do it. You know, or not every part of my gym kit was there. You know, I left a sock. I didn't put a sock in. Oh, I won't go. You know what I mean? It's quite easy, but don't you find that once you get into the flow of something, you feel really like devastated if you don't stick with it? You know, that's I'm sure there's a kind of neurological reason why.
That's the nature of habit forming, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just the nature of habit forming. It doesn't matter if that habit is good or bad for you. You start to feel the effect of not doing that habit at some stage if you don't do it. And like I said, that can be positive or negative. I stopped smoking when I was 29 or 30. There's 1,000 reasons why I probably didn't want to give up at the time, but there are a million reasons why I should have done and why I did. Did I feel great when I was giving up smoking? No, not particularly, but it doesn't, again, it's creating a habit that doesn't include smoking anymore. It's the process that I went through. So I can do mindset. I did do it once.
No, congratulations, Dom. 30 years without smoking. Well done. There's a subtle joke in there.
You're right, though. So Dom, you mentioned reward then, and you're completely right that actually it doesn't matter in that sense whether or not it's a helpful or unhelpful habit, because there's a reward element. There's a kind of loop that happens. So if you do something, if the reward for you is to smoke or to go out and be sociable, whatever it is, there's a reward element. And for those, it doesn't matter, as you say, if it's a positive reward or a negative reward, it's still a reward. And so your body's looking for that. So one of the things we talk to people quite a lot about is trying not to build or break a habit. You've got to do them both at the same time. Because if you just try and stop doing something and you don't then try and bring in building something in at the same time, you kind of have this mini little emptiness in that moment, which means it's very easy to go back to the old habit you're trying to break. So when you're breaking a habit, you actually need to build a new habit in at the same time, because otherwise your body is automatically trying to find that old thing that was filling that time, however much time, whatever it is, to try and get that instant reward again.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're talking, let's use the example of going back to the gym. Are you saying don't go all in on the gym, build it slowly? You're more likely to get a better result. And I'm actually not joking. I can see the smile, but I'm just trying to get an example for you of what that might mean in practice. And that's what I heard.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. The reason I'm laughing, this is an insight into James and I. So the reason I'm laughing is because I absolutely say that. So I am a big believer of having that big goal and then taking steps to it. So exactly as you said, like if you've not gone to the gym for 3 months, don't tell yourself you're going to go 5 times in a week, because it's probably not going to happen. So my opinion would always be build small steps, go once a fortnight or once a week, and then build it up. James, however, which is why I'm laughing, is an all or nothing kind of person. And so we'll do exactly that and go, right, I'm going to go 5 times this week. And I haven't been for the 2 weeks before that.
That's what I do.
Yeah. And it's a very common thing. What I would say is it's easier to build a habit if you're building it. You're not just throwing it into your life. And so you've actually got to think about it as building blocks. So how can you build that habit gradually? Because then it's more likely to stick.
So I've got a question.
I will do what James does, and I'll go to the gym 5 times in that week, hurt like hell for
Right.
8 days, and that's my reason not to go back.
We want pictures. So I've got a question for you then. Does and you might be coming onto this, but does measure it? You know, do you have to make it measurable? And does that help you to create a habit? You know, by looking at the progress you're making and realize, you know, that's giving you inspiration. Whether that's I mean, we keep talking the gym. Let's say like go for a run. You know, I'm going to go for a run every day. Today I've done 1K. Tomorrow I've done 2, 3. You know, keep pushing those boundaries. Is that important for a habit as well?
So again, Laura and I differ very much on this. Laura is very self-accountable and she doesn't need to measure anything. She will just say, this is what I'm going to do and get it done. I can't do that at all. So I have to have what gets measured gets improved. I'm sure that's something that many people have heard, right? And for me, I personally need that kind of measuring things on a regular basis to keep me accountable, because also I'm not just measuring it, I also check in with that particular statistic with a particular person, because I have accountability buddies for various different things. And for me, building in that accountability and measuring things towards it is important. And that is a system that works for me, but it's not something that everybody needs. And this is what, you know, it kind of goes back to the systems we were talking about earlier. There's a great quote actually by James Clear called, what does he say? He said, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And we always think that we're going to set a goal and hit it. Actually, no, if we don't set the right systems, that's the level that we're going to fall to. So I think it's important to get the system in place that works for you. That can be measuring, it can include accountability. I definitely need that. Laura doesn't at all. And that's how we have very different systems when it comes to this kind of thing. It's working out what works for you.
Sorry. Background, Laura just had to reactivate the lights in her room just as James was talking. It was quite amusing. The wavy hands out.
There was lots of dancing.
She suddenly
I'm
vanished.
the motion sensor room, and apparently I don't move enough.
We told you had to keep moving, Laura.
Yeah.
There's a comment coming from Leslie White on exactly this. She's currently recovering from ACL knee surgery and using each part of the recovery as being one step closer to being back out running. I've asked for each part of the recovery from the physio to know the milestones so I can manage my own expectations. But again, you know, it's setting milestones. It's having those realistic and achievable goals that is going to get you to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very much a coaching philosophy. So that idea of being able to set the goal but break it into achievable milestones, and absolutely being able to see progress is really important. So as much as James was saying there, that I don't feel necessarily the need to update somebody else on my progress on my running, for example, I do still want to know that I'm achieving that bit faster pace or that bit further distance. So I want that self-satisfaction that I'm hitting certain milestones. So when I started running, it was about being able to run for a certain time. And now it's kind of actually I want to be able to hit that pace and be able to hit those different distances in a certain time. And so I think you can still set your own milestones. And I think when you're in that kind of recovery process, as Leslie was sharing there, actually knowing that you're making progress and moving forward is hugely important, because it is that positive mindset thing. So we've talked about fixed and growth mindset, but having a positive mindset and having that mindset that you are moving forward. And I think when progress is slow, it can be really disheartening. And for lots of people, that's why sometimes they'll give up on forming a habit, because actually they're not seeing what they want quick enough. And so if you put those milestones and that kind of those progress updates in there, you can see that you're making progress, and it feels good, because we all want to move forward. We all want to make progress, whatever our goal might be. We like to move forward. And I think particularly in this industry, we're very deadline driven. And so actually the more we can be working towards dates and deliverables, whatever that might be, whether it's running or, you know, actual work, actually that's a really positive thing, particularly I think in this industry.
I think what I was just going to add to that, Laura, what I think quite a lot of people do, and I'd love to understand what your take on this is, they'll make their accountability in public. for having like a mindset about something, like I'm going to train for a marathon or whatever that might be. We keep using sport and fitness things, but it could be for anything. And they'll put it in public. They'll put it on social media and kind of, it's that kind of, do you find that approach works? Because it does with some people, because, I'm thinking with James, that kind of works because he's like the all or nothing. And I'm a bit like that. Like, I'm going to run this marathon, watch me.
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes me do it that little bit more, or should we just be doing this behind closed doors and then going, da-da, I've done a marathon kind of thing.
I think you're completely right. It totally depends on the person. So exactly like you guys are identifying there, you've got a very different style to what I would have. So actually, I'm going to take it a different way to what you guys are, and neither is right or wrong. But what's really important, and James mentioned this earlier, is about working out what works for you and creating the systems that work for you. So, for example, we have in our team, we have a weekly kind of like pastoral care meeting, if you like, a check-in meeting once a week. We have all our kind of team status type stuff, but then we also have like a pastoral how are you doing type meeting, which, running a workplace wellbeing organization kind of makes sense. And we use that as an opportunity to create accountability within the team for our personal well-being. So it's not just about how have we hit the business goals or how are we making progress on the business goals every week. Every week as a team, we sit there and say, okay, you said that you wanted to drink a certain amount of water or you wanted to walk a certain amount of steps a day or whatever that person's goal is. How did you get on with that? So we create an accountability team because even though I might personally hugely benefit from it, if I know that I can help other people benefit from it, it's a positive thing all round because I also kind of get swept up into it as well because I don't want to be the person that sits there and says, oh, I can't be bothered, because that's not, even if that's not what's holding me accountable, I also don't want to say, no, that's not me. So I think actually creating accountability with people that will benefit, even if it's not necessarily the thing that's beneficial for you, you might find you get swept up into it a little bit anyway, but it is about finding the right environment, the right system for you.
Yeah. Quick question I've got for you guys as well is, what about routines? Obviously this show is not just about habits, it's about mindset. Morning routines, is this something that you kind of recommend, getting up, doing some yoga, I mean, I do Headspace, the app Headspace. I've mentioned that a few times on this. I try and use that in the morning. It's brilliant, 10 minutes. And I feel really good for it. And then you develop a streak with it, and it tells you how many you've done on the run and you become a bit addicted to it. But I find things like that really helpful for me. Is it something you kind of advocate?
Yeah, we're both a fan of morning routines, and we both have slightly different routines. But I think if you don't have a routine, what you tend to find happens is you get partway through the day and you start to get anxiety about the things that you know you want to have done that day. So you set yourself a target, let's say, and say, right, every day I want to read, I want to stretch, I want to journal, I want to meditate, I want to meal prep, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do on a daily basis. If you haven't done that all by 10 o'clock, then you have this kind of period throughout the day where you're constantly thinking, right, when am I going to get that thing done? When am I, because you've told yourself you've committed to doing something and you haven't done it yet. So you kind of, and then you get to the end of the day and think, oh God, I still haven't done this yet. I still haven't done that yet. And you've experienced all this unnecessary anxiety. So why not just get up in the morning and get it done? Yeah. If you get it done, I mean, I'm making a bit of an assumption here that everybody has the ability to do that. And, I don't have kids and I don't have to create a morning routine around that. So it's easy for me to do that. I recognise and I realise it's easy for me to say that. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a morning routine. It can be a lunchtime routine. It can be an evening routine. But I think any way that you can build some kind of routine into your day that has regular stuff that happens that contributes towards the targets, the things that you're trying to achieve, is a really, really positive thing. And it creates a system for you to win.
For me, actually, that was I worked from home I had an office years and years ago, and then I had 3 or 4 years where I worked from home. And actually, for me, one of the things that I did change was probably, again, about 3 years ago now, no, 4, was actually creating the routine of going to work. I was still working for myself, but I got an office away from home. And actually, it was as much about getting the office out of my house as it was forcing me to get myself up and ready and dressed and get out of the house and physically go to work, instead of just probably sticking a jumper and a hoodie, a t-shirt and a hoodie on, and going sitting at my desk in the living room, having not gone through that process. And I know I've spoken to lots of friends about this. That's one thing that a lot of people that I know missed during lockdown, was that ability to get up and physically go somewhere. It wasn't necessarily about all of the other things that we were missing out on that we couldn't do, but it was just being able to go do that and stick to my routine.
Yeah, and I think you're completely right. And we found that a lot when we were working with people. Exactly. So over the pandemic was exactly that. People missed out on their commute. And many people sit there and say, I don't like my commute because it takes 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. But what they hadn't appreciated was exactly that sense of that sets up your mindset for the day or for the evening when you get home. So you're either saying, right, I'm going to listen to music so I feel pumped up, or calming, if you're going to listen to Headspace, whatever it might be, you're going to read. You're putting yourself into that work mindset or that home life mindset in the evening. And so it's absolutely that. We saw loads of people struggling with that over lockdown. And I think, I remember a few years ago, I read the book The Miracle Morning and 5 a.m. Club, which are very focused books on morning routines. You either get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it might be, and you have to follow certain steps. That was too extreme for me, and I have not got any interest in doing it quite so extreme. But what I did take from that was having the sense of routine, and as you say, that kind of the ease then that makes putting yourself into a positive mindset in the morning is a real positive. So as James said, we've got a pretty good kind of routine that is now routine. It's now habit in the morning. So the first thing I do before I look at my phone is I go downstairs, make myself a coffee, open up all the blinds and curtains and everything, and then read a book. And I'll read a book for 15 minutes or so in the morning before I look at my phone, because I don't care at that point. It's 6:30 in the morning. I don't care who's phoned me or messaged me overnight or what notifications come through. I'm going to read. And that means, to James's point, that actually I've already done some reading during the day. So if I don't do anything else for me that day, I've already done a bit of reading and a bit of learning. And I think you can really set up a morning routine that doesn't have to involve being up at 5 a.m. and it doesn't have to involve 25 things in the morning. It can be one thing or two things, but makes you feel good when you start the rest of the day.
I'm laughing at myself a little bit here because I have a stack of self-help books, but I haven't created the habit that enables me to read them.
and I'm laughing.
I'm not even kidding.
I'm laughing because Dom was describing his days of staying at home, of putting a hoodie on and working from home. It's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, that wasn't.
It wasn't intentional. Yeah, it was. Anyway, on the flip side of that, though, isn't it also good as well to kind of disrupt the habit that you've got, like to go to a coffee shop, like if you're working from home all the time, and break out of a little rut that you might be in? Isn't that something? I mean, something that works for me. I do that sometimes. Is that something you kind of advocate, or is that just me being weird?
I think that's more routine and creating that structure and routine rather than necessarily the habit. But yeah, you're completely right. And I think lots of people really benefit from that change of environment and change of pace. And, I was in a co-working space this morning, and it feels very different to being at home in our spare bedroom. And so it puts you into a slightly different mindset. Now, I don't want to be in that mindset every day, but being able to pick and choose my environment to be able to influence how I'm feeling that day. Is that going to be a more creative space for me? Is it going to be a more productive, a more calming space, whatever it might be? I think having different environments and different routines for what you need to achieve or what you want to achieve that day can be really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does this work in a similar way to when you're setting goals for yourself? I'm getting better at setting goals for myself and for the business and things that I want to achieve personally or professionally. And I have got into the routine of writing those down. Does the same apply here? Is it a decent habit to start writing these things down?
It can be.
So
So to
again, this
Neil's
is where
point about chaining, about Neil's chaining of achievement of habits, for some people that can be really beneficial. So actually being able to tick off a calendar, or being able to say, I did this X, Y, Z. On a very basic level, James is about to say how we're very different on it, so I'll let him share that in a minute. But on a very basic level, we talked a lot about running, and one of the reasons being because I've got into running over the last year, and I try to run 3 times a week. And I don't know if any of you have ever used Nike Run Club, but you just have a little graph in it that shows how regularly you run and how the distance you've run. And I like seeing the lines on the graph, and it bothers me if there's a bit of a gap in the graph of where I've not gone for 3 runs that week. So even mine's not every day in that sense, but just the regularity and the look of what a graph looks like can be enough to inspire me to go for a run. But James is a massive fan of writing everything kind of goal wise down.
Yeah, I
Good-
think your
good to think about.
graph on Nike Run Club is very similar to the rings that you have on Apple Watch, and I've never been one to obsess over making sure that I complete those rings every day. But there are people far fitter than I am who do that very well, and that's probably the reason.
James, I've got an avenue I'd like to just explore as well, is turning around a negative mindset, or turning around, negativity that you might be dealing with at work, or whatever it might be. Is that have you got any tips for that? Any things we can be doing to solve that? Because we all encounter negativity or sadness or a bit of depression or whatever. Is there any tips you can give us to guide us through that?
Yeah. Oh, well, how long do we have? Blimey, let me think of the quickest one for this. I would say if you are experiencing like negativity and you're kind of stuck in a bit of a rut, the best thing that I personally find is trying to stay present. Stop dwelling on the past. Stop worrying about the future, and focus on what you can do today, and what you can do now, and also try to reframe the negativity into a positive. Yeah, and what we are very good at doing as humans is focusing on the negative side of whatever's happened, and instead, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what's the opportunity here? What do I get to do now? What what positive can come out of this? And then we can start to reframe our minds and set more positive and exciting goals and aspirations for the future that we can then build our systems around, and then try to build the habits to achieve those things.
I think it's important as well, isn't it, to kind of to put some perspective on it as well, because sometimes today's massive negative thing is tomorrow's, well, it wasn't that bad, and sometimes I think you need to take a little beat or talk to people maybe as well. That's what I find works for me. If I talk to somebody about it rather than let it build and build and build in my head, that kind of helps me a lot personally.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, if you can catastrophize in your mind very easily, but when you actually start talking to somebody about it, you start to realize actually it's not as bad as as what I think it is. And also a really good question to ask yourself in that situation is, what am I really genuinely going to think about this situation in 1 week's time, 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 1 year's time? If I try and visualize myself that far in the future to look back to what's happened now, what am I actually going to think about it? And the chances are you'll think, I would have moved on by then. Things would be much different. Things would be great. I would have done this, that, and the other. And then you can you can instantly take the heat out and the edge out of the negativity from that situation then by doing that little activity.
Yeah.
And are you guys coaching people through this process? Is that part of the job that you do?
So it's what I do in terms of a coach. So
Okay.
Stress Matters, we don't do that so much. We focus more
Okay.
on putting self-care plans into place to support people with my No More So Butts hat on. We do coaching and development. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we help people with. So it might be I want to do something with my business, or I want to start a business, for example, and I just don't know how to do it. And can you help me put in the goals and the steps in place? Or, we sometimes sometimes work with people who say, this is kind of happening, but I want to have more time in the evening with my kids, and all I am doing is work. So how can I find balance in my life and change that approach and change their mindset? Yeah, and balance is a huge thing. And I think the more we can acknowledge so in coaching world we call it limiting beliefs. I like to refer to it as fake news. So we tell ourselves fake news stories a lot. So James mentioned there about kind of catastrophizing, like if we think something, and we do this a fair amount in the events industry, oh my god, the whole thing's going to fall apart, the whole thing's going to blow up, all the AV is going to crash, whatever it might be. We quite often will go to the worst situation, and we do various other things to the way we think that can negatively impact our mindset. And so I quite often talk about it as being fake news. So what fake news story are you telling yourself? If you're telling yourself you're not good enough, or that actually you're not prepared enough, or whatever it might be, based on what, and actually being able to challenge your mindset and say, have I just made that up, or have I got actual evidence to prove that that is true or not? And Neil mentioned, talking to somebody, that's one of the things that you either do as a friend or you can do in coaching processes, challenge that belief and actually establish, is it fake news or not?
I think as well, just referring to...
Sorry, go on, Neil.
Go on, Dom. I was just going to say, referring to our audience our audience and the Delegate Wranglers and the people who are watching, we all have to work with, with clients as well. And sometimes clients will come at you with negative opinions, and it can bash your confidence about, whether you can actually do your job. I'm not bashing clients here, by the way. I'm just talking about generally, somebody can have a negative comment about something, and it can really affect your confidence, can't it? And, it's important to put these things into perspective sometimes and have some tools built in to deal with that.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's where it's different people find different techniques useful, but sometimes writing things like a gratitude diary can be really beneficial. So if you've had a really challenging day and a client's been, not very nice to you, whatever it might be, still trying to get to the end of the day and think of, even if it's one positive thing that happened that day. James and I did it a lot at the very beginning of the pandemic. So for the first few months of the pandemic, when everything was just super crazy, we made it part of our evening kind of dinner routine that we would sit down and we would try and name something that we were grateful for that day. Because at the time, our business had absolutely tanked, and it was a really challenging time, obviously, for everybody, but it was really hard to be grateful for some stuff. And so being able to kind of encourage yourself and force yourself to think of things to be grateful for, it shifted that mindset that little bit more, and actually being appreciative. My lights have gone again.
You need to dance a bit,
your arms,
Laura. We want to see the dance.
There were a couple of things that I was going to pick. There were a couple of things I was going to pick up on. Actually, on that subject, one of my closest friends is amazing at a gratitude diary. She has 7 things literally every day. She's done it for probably as long as I can remember. She finds 7 things at the end of the day. It might actually get to, she just needs to hear a bird chirping to find one thing at some stage. But she always finds 7 things in the evening that she's grateful for from that day. And she's just habit formed that, and it's been fantastic. The other thing I was going to say on catastrophizing, which I was going to pick up on from what you were saying just now, harnessing catastrophizing sometimes isn't a bad thing. So looking at what the worst case potentially could be. So what if that happened? What if that happened?
Classic event manager. Dom, this is classic event manager territory.
It is absolutely, but it's basically it's a level. It's then harnessing that and showing to yourself, I think, that it's a level of preparedness that
what's your plan B?
About what the absolute worst case could be. What's your plan B? What's your plan C? Yeah, what's the get out? Yeah.
Always that's classic event management mindset. Yeah, but you've got to be able to switch that off and not take it into every aspect of your life. And this is a difficult thing with event management. And I did this for 20 years. You've always got to think, how will I fix that if that doesn't happen? And that might happen, and I can change that. You've just got to then switch that off and come home and be a normal person. And I think again, that's just having a kind of a mindset towards it. Laura,
I just want to look at a couple of comments because they come in, if you don't mind. I don't know what this was referring to. I think you liked the comment, Neil, but Helen McCourty said, I saw you bashing clients, Neil. I don't know what they should mean by that.
Never. I was amazing to my clients.
Jonathan Taylor said, great dancing, Laura.
Thank you.
Jill Bollard says, great tips for my job hunting mindset. Thank you. That's a really, that's a great one, actually. And Helen also then said, gratitude practice is a game changer. I wouldn't have got through 2020 without it.
Yeah. Cool. I think we're coming up to the end of the show, guys. So, is there any last things you wanted to add before we wrap up?
The only thing I was just going to say then was around, you mentioned there about kind of plan A and plan B. I think sometimes a different way to think about it, so you don't feel like you're going for second best, is literally option A, B, C, D. So you make it a little bit more even playing field. Because I think when we sometimes think about plan A, it's like, well, that's the plan, and anything else is a bit of a rubbish version of that. And actually, I quite like thinking about option A, B, C, or D, because it puts them a bit more on an even playing field. That if it doesn't quite work out, we go for option B, but that doesn't mean that's a secondary plan. It's just that that's a different option. And I think that can be quite helpful for mindset wise as well.
Yeah. James?
Yeah, just one thing that we've kind of skirted around a little bit, but not talked about explicitly, which I think is really, really important when it comes to habit forming, is consistency. And I think we massively underestimate the importance of consistency. And I think me and Dom are both in the same camp here. Like, being all or nothing, it's very easy to not show up at all because you're like, well, I can't do the whole thing, or I can't do it properly, therefore I'm just not going to do it at all. But actually, when it comes to habit forming, just showing up and doing as much as you can, even if it's not the whole thing, is super important. It's just, day after day after day after day, showing up and doing that thing, whatever it is. And there's a really good tip in a book called Atomic Habits, which is never miss twice. So if you do miss something, never miss it 2 times in a row. If you always have that rule in your mind, then you can start to develop consistency. And
I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits. I've read that book. I thoroughly recommend it to people. I'll try and put a link in the chat to it. It's very, very good. I've read it twice. It's brilliant. I've got a habit reading it. So thanks. I think that's a really important point about consistency. Dom, I think, should take note, because only one of us has been on the show for these first 3 weeks, and only one of us hasn't been consistent. Just
not even getting into it. Not even getting into it. I was actually, while we're talking, I was just trying to find the Atomic Habits book on Amazon, and I can't immediately find it. I will find it, and I'll get a link out to people.
To add to that pile.
I was going to say to add to the pile.
It's another one to go on that list of things I'm never going to read. The most pretentious bookshelf ever.
Yeah, Audible. Yeah, get him in the book.
Try listening to it.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, so I think we're coming to the end of the show. I'd just like to say a massive thank you for those insights. They're really, really super useful. Thoroughly recommend, guys, that you share this what are we on? A video with everybody, because there'll be some super useful tips for, we're all at different stages of our lives and doing things, so not one thing works for everybody. So, but I think we've discussed quite a few different things today. Do you agree, Dom?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, again, I don't like harping back to it all the time, because it's going to come a point we can't talk about the last couple of years. But I think also the last couple of years, coming out of what's happened in the last couple of years, is giving people an opportunity to re-look at habits, re-look at mindset, or they're having to completely adjust what they were doing before because everything's different. And there's probably no harm in either of those, but it's really important to I think, go through the process. And like I said right at the beginning, it's not something I'm particularly good at, but I will go away and read those books and see if I can get better at it.
No, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I'd also like to say a special thank you for Laura's earrings. Have made an appearance on the show. They are amazing. I was bewitched by them, Laura. Anyway, so thank you very much, guys, and
thanks for having us, guys.
Again. I'm sure you'll be on again soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Bye.
So, guys, here we go. Dom, another show, another week.
Absolutely.
3 done. God, next week we're halfway through.
Yeah, I know, right? But genuinely, I'm going to take a few things away from that, and I will go away. And if I manage to read one of those books in the next couple of weeks, then actually, it's been an episode well made.
Right.
And I
So if
will
any
make
of
the
you
effort.
any of you are connected to Dom, I want you to bombard him with messages saying, "Have you started your book? Have you been down the gym?" Let's all pester him to death about it.
I'm not going to post it on social media. It seems a bit attention seeking. I'm not a PM me hun kind of chap.
Oh, I'm so going to PM you now. Anyway, what's coming up in the next few weeks? So, really excited for our next few weeks coming up on the show. We've got an onboarding webinar actually on Thursday, this Thursday, with Diane, Group Guru. Will be so that's for anybody who is new to the group or has been a member of the group for a while, wants a refresher. Diane will give you some tips. We always have a good discussion. They're super useful. They're completely free. Just go to our DW broadcast page on our website and you can sign up for any of these shows here. They're all free, guys. It's just to get a reminder from us. Next week, we have got, and I know we're going to pop a slide up about it in a second, a masterclass with Natasha from Expo Case. And then we've got a scaling up masterclass with...
No, Neil. It's Expo Cast.
Expo Cast, sorry. That's my bad typo.
We've
got a scaling up masterclass with Richard Bridge from Top Banana. That's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. Richard's a top bloke, if anybody knows him. And then Dom, I don't think you know about this one, but we've got a metaverse masterclass with Josh King.
That's crazy.
Going to
that's
be
a really good one.
Yes, because those guys have been putting on metaverse meetings for people already. So, Callum, I don't know if we've got Natasha's slide. Maybe we haven't. Yes, we have.
Yeah, we have.
There we go. I've called a case on that as well, haven't I? Why have I done that?
You have, yeah.
Anyway,
it is 100% Expo Cast. Sorry, Natasha.
Well, got to call it Expo Case. It's a new rebrand. So this, you know Natasha quite well, don't you, Dom, as well? This should be a really good show.
I've wanted Natasha to come and do this show for ages, and we very nearly got a last series, and I think for various reasons she didn't do it. But I'm really, really happy that we've got her on because she's going to be excellent. Yeah. And she's if you know Natasha, if you don't, I'm going to make sure we get her TikTok account details because she's actually very funny on TikTok as well. She's made some great videos. We actually played one of her spoof videos. I think last year sometime, Neil, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. She had a conversation with herself. I remember it now.
Yeah, that's it. But that's going to be a really good show, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be basically, guys, about sign up for it, and now we'll put a link in the chat as well. How the recruitment landscape's changed. It's so much of an employees market at the moment. There's so many jobs out there. We're just putting them on, tons of them every day. So that should be a really good show for anybody who's employing people and also employees as well who are looking to get a new role and find out some great tips. So thank you once again, as always, to Melia Hotels International and also to Inside by Melia for sponsoring this season. We really appreciate it. Massive thank you to Laura and James for being on the show and giving us some amazing advice and tips. Thank you to everybody for watching and tuning in and joining in. We really appreciate it. Please spread the word. Please follow us on YouTube and all our other social media channels. And a big thank you to Events Case and Dom and the team from Stream for putting on another great show. And Dom, you made it through to the end.
This is habit forming, Neil. This is the first, baby steps and all that.
This is week one. We're at week one of Dom's transformation.
We are indeed.
Right, guys.
We've got to go. Let everyone go.
Yeah, we got to go. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.